In my family, we have a pair of porcelain dolls that have been around for generations. Both are the size of an average man and woman, wearing fine clothing that seems to be from the 1950s. They're usually in the living room, hand in hand. The woman has short, curly red hair, and the dark green ribbon in her sun hat matches her dress. She wore black lace gloves and stockings. She wore a pearl necklace and an emerald bracelet, and a large diamond ring adorned her ring finger. Her dark blue eyes stared vacantly. The man wore a black pinstripe suit and gloves, his dark brown hair neatly brushed back off of his forehead. His dark eyes seemed warmer than the woman he's always holding hands with. My friends think they're creepy, but I've grown pretty used to them. They're only moved when it's time to eat or when there's a party. Like any other member of the family, they have a seat at our table, with empty plates sitting in front of them. And the parties are usually held at our house, so we have them there, always holding hands with each other. They've been around for so long that nobody really questions it. I think the dolls like to be included, though. I don't know why, but there's a sense deep down that they're alive somehow. My brother often makes fun of me for wanting to spend time with them. Whenever I come home, I like to tell them about my day and do my homework in the living room with them. Sometimes I hold their hands. It feels like that's what they want, to feel the warmth of a living being. Mom and Dad talk to them too, venting, chatting, asking for advice that will receive no answer. Sometimes I wonder why my brother doesn't do these things too. I was sketching a few clothing designs when I got an idea. I looked over at my parents on the couch. They were watching TV while Mom was knitting. Would it be okay if I used the dolls to practice making clothes? I asked them. Mom and Dad gave each other concerned looks at first. I promise I'll be careful with them. Oh, we know you will, sweetie. Dad gave me an uneasy smile. It's just not up to us, though, Mom explained. It's up to them. I looked over at the dolls. They're sitting in their chairs, hand in hand, like always. That was their usual spot in the living room. I got up and walked over to them. I took each doll's hand in mine, the woman's in my left, and the man's in my right. Their ball joints let out a small squeak as they were moved. Would it be okay? I asked them. On my right, there was an optimistic feeling, while the left was unsure, but it didn't feel like a refusal. I smiled at them. Thank you. I gently put their hands down. I'll get started right away. I rushed out of the living room to get my measuring tape. I think I saw Mom and Dad smiling as I left. I took their measurements and began picking what kind of clothes and fabric would look good on them. In the following weeks, I cut out the patterns and sewed them together whenever I had some free time. I laid the dolls down and helped them into the new clothes a few times to see if I needed to adjust anything. And then I returned them to the way they were with their old clothes when I was done. I had the dolls in my room while I worked on the adjustments for the woman's clothes. My brother came into my room, and he seemed surprised that the dolls were here instead of in the living room. Hey, what are you working on? He asked, looking at the clothes I'm running through the sewing machine. Oh, I'm working on some new clothes for the dolls, I told him excitedly. I took the dress off the sewing machine to show him. See? I thought a sundress would look really cute on her. And I've been working on a new suit and fedora for her partner. They're over there. I pointed at my dresser where the clothes lay folded on top. My brother tilted his head. What was that look on his face? I had a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach. Did you need something? I was just wondering what you were doing, he explained. That smile was so fake. You could make a lot of money doing this. Maybe I can do something to help. Sure. I'll let you know if I need something. Yeah. I put the dress back under the sewing machine. My brother, he just lingered there, staring at the dolls. What was his deal? I managed to get their clothes done just in time for another family gathering. I got the dolls into their new clothes and Mom and Dad sat them down on the bench on the patio. I was getting all kinds of compliments from my aunts, uncles, and cousins. My younger cousins came up to me with their dolls, asking me to make clothes for them. I got to work taking the dolls' measurements and writing down what my cousins wanted. Mostly dresses. What are you doing? Everyone went silent at the sound of my mom's panicked voice. She and my brother were by the dolls. I think she had just walked out of the house with the salad bowl. My brother hid one of his hands behind his back. Put that ring back right now! Mom demanded. My brother only took a step back and looked away from her. It only took until one of my uncles stepped out onto the patio for him to throw the ring down and run inside. My cousins followed me to the patio. Our uncle was on his knees, looking through the gap in the floorboards. Mom looked absolutely mortified. I've never seen her like that before. Mom? He took one of the doll's wedding ring and threw it down there, she explained, trying to keep her voice even. Yeah, someone's got to go under there and get it back, my uncle said, standing up. Oh, me, let me do it. One of my cousins excitedly jumped with their hands raised. All right, kiddo, let me get a flashlight for you, our uncle chuckled. Sweetie, can you put the salad down on the table for me? Mom asked me. Yes, ma'am. I walked up the steps of the patio and set my notebook and measuring tape onto one of the tables. When I looked at the dolls, I'm not imagining this, am I? The woman's eyes looked darker. I didn't have to hold her hand to feel the intense rage coming off of her. It scared me. But I pretended that nothing was wrong as I took the salad bowl so my mom could help my uncle find the flashlight. I brought the salad over to the buffet table where my dad was setting down a tray of grilled vegetable kebabs. He and the other adults had concerned looks on their faces. Hey, I'm gonna head inside and help, he said. Someone watch the grill while I'm gone. Then he headed into the house and disappeared inside. Eventually, my dad and uncle came back out with a flashlight and a toolbox. They removed the bottom part of the deck so my cousin could go in. She was small enough to go under without having to bend over. Oh, be careful not to get dirty, her mom said, worried. Okay, Mama. We all watched in anticipation, waiting for her. Felt like the silence went on for a long time. I found it! A collective sigh of relief could be heard as she emerged from under the porch, ring in her little hand. Everyone began to praise her for a job well done as she handed the ring to my dad. Thank you, you did just such a good job. Dad smiled as he ruffled her hair. They went inside to wash the dirt off her ring and my cousin's hands, then returned the ring to the woman's finger immediately. The party continued, with my cousin being a little hero. But my brother never came back out of the house. Mom did emerge with the salad dressing, all smiles as if everything was fine, but I could tell she was kind of winded. I went back to the patio to help Dad bring the dolls to the table. I carried the woman. There was none of that malice from before, and she seemed content now. We had dinner without my brother present. One of my aunts volunteered to bring him a plate. Nobody really mentioned what happened, but I guess that's just how my family is. They prefer to unpack unpleasant things later when the festivities are over and when the kids aren't around. You could argue that this wasn't a good way to handle things, and you're probably right. My parents probably feel embarrassed by what my brother did. What was he thinking anyway? Mom probably chewed him out enough already, so I shouldn't add more salt to the wound. I just sat at the table with my cousin sitting in my lap and enjoyed dinner. It turned out that one of my brother's friends had kept guilting him into giving him money, and it's gotten to the point where that friend threatened to blackmail him to give him more. My parents called that boy's parents, and I'm not sure where the issue had gone from there. In the weeks that followed, my brother hardly came out of his room. He just went to school and then shut himself in his room, even when his 2 weeks of grounding were over. He only came out to use the bathroom. Mom and I were bringing him food, but he hardly ate anything. Mom and Dad were worried and tried to talk to him, but he was just silent. I managed to catch him in the hallway. At this point, he was thinner, his hair greasy and unkempt, and there were dark circles under his eyes. He looked miserable. "Hey, are you?" He coolly walked away before I could finish my question. This was concerning. I brought it up with Mom and Dad, and they were going to look into getting him into therapy. Something was definitely up with him. Was that guy still demanding money for him? Is he escalating things? I want to help him, but what can I do? Would he want my help? If only I had done something. One night, I was up late working on another dress. The only sound was the thumping of from my sewing machine. Then suddenly, I heard a scream, and the sound of something breaking. I shot up from my chair, making it fall backwards, and ran out of my room. I followed the screaming to the living room, my heart pounding harder and harder. What was happening? Why was it happening? Another smash, another break, another scream. I finally stepped into the living room. The entire room was practically turned upside down. The furniture had been turned over, the TV shattered, books were scattered everywhere. My brother was screaming as he was rampaging through the room. And the dolls? The woman was on top of the man on the floor, as if she moved in to protect him from my brother. Her eyes... What was wrong with her eyes? No, never mind that. I have to stop my brother. Hey, what's wrong? I asked, taking one of his arms. And then I was suddenly transported somewhere else. My brother wasn't here. This was the same living room, but the furniture was different. A box TV took the place of our flat screen. The woman doll was in her usual spot, but on a different love seat. And she was alone this time. Her eyes were so dark they nearly looked black. A man walked into the room, and my eyes went wide in shock. He looked just like the male doll, although he wasn't exactly healthy. He was thin, with dark bags under his eyes, and his hair was messy. He stomped right through me and knelt in front of the doll. "You've already taken my wife," he said to her. He sounded tired and angry. His voice was shaking. "What will it take for you to leave my children alone?" He took her hand, and after a moment, his eyes widened. "You just want me? But that's absurd. How can you expect me to..." "No, I think if I construct a doll replica of myself, and my soul is trapped inside, then we'll be together for eternity. You'll have to leave my children alone then, won't you? You have to promise now. If If you want us to be husband and wife, then you'll have to treat my children as if they are yours. The same goes for the generations after. There was a long pause, and then he sighed. I'd best get started then. He stood up and walked away. I was suddenly on the floor, hearing my mom's panicked voice as someone was shaking me awake. I was facing the dolls. The man's and woman's faces were badly cracked. The man's arm was broken off. That warmth was no longer in his eyes. And the woman's eyes were black as coals. That man I saw before, I think he was my grandfather. He was in that doll this whole time, placating her. I don't feel anything from him now. All I feel was this intense rage coming from the woman. There was so much anger, it felt like it would swallow me whole. With grandfather gone, nothing will hold her back.